Hello out there. Hey, this is Matt Garrett from Sealed Solution. The topic is, why do I need a crawl space inspection? So we've been in business for 15 years. We probably have over 4,000 sealed crawl spaces. We were working on the neighbor's home, probably two or three down, and I hand out gift certificates um, to Amazon to the neighbors saying, hey, if our trucks are in your way, if there's something on your yard, here's a gift certificate up front. And then I'll make sure when the whole job is done that you have perfect lawn, the roadway, and everything else there. And then every now and then somebody says, well, you could check out our crawl space. This gentleman's here, it was already sealed. So I was like, I'd love to see a sealed crawl space. So he goes, sure. So I crawled in there and just, here's what I found on, it was a pest control company who did the sealed crawl space probably 4 years or so ago. And that's good there. But they only sealed three-quarters of the crawl space. Another section of it, they didn't. And they, let me see if I could get to this here. Let's go down. Edit, edit, edit. It's not going down. Okay. That's a. So he said that he had a sealed crawl space, and then I go into this section of the home, and it's unsealed. I was like, does he think his whole place is sealed up? So he's an older guy, and then afterwards he said, well, no, three-quarters of it is sealed up, and the other quarter isn't. I asked him why, and he's just like, well, I just wanted that part sealed so the house above it is comfortable. So as I looked through the crawl space, inspecting it, so there's an entranceway from this one into the next one that from the other side, they just put a piece of hardboard insulation there. Now, if it was foam sealed all around, I could see that, but it's wide open up top, wide open at the bottom, and it's critter superhighway. As you can see here, once you start to have mold inside of a crawl space, you get critters living in the insulation, and they nest inside there and poop and pee and everything else. So you don't want any superhighways from one unsealed crawl space into the next one that's sealed, just because you're asking for it. Why wouldn't the critters want to live inside there where it's warm and toasty and nicer? So not that they have any water, but they'll just go to the other one where it's not sealed, the plastic isn't down, and they have full access to water. But so a lot of insulation hanging down. That's because the snakes hunting mice is the only reason why insulation moves in a crawl space. No matter how wet it is, it stays up there. It only moves because the snakes hunting mice. So once you start to get mold inside the crawl space from exposed ground outside, UV light in sunlight kills all the surface mold on this planet, or we'd all be dead. Animals, trees, shrubs, gone. So thank God for UV light. But when a tree falls down in the forest and sunlight can't reach under that tree, mold comes up. It needs a tree from the bottom up. Inside the crawl space, once you have exposed ground, it has the moisture inside the ground, the biomass, leaves, and everything that makes up ground so it can eat on stuff. But if it's covered up, it can't have oxygen. So mold finds it really hard to grow under plastic. So the first rule in all crawl spaces is 100% plastic down. So once it's not down and exposed, in North Carolina, the first mold you start to see is a white mold, and it gets more aggressive. It goes gray, then brown, and then black, and then to cottage cheese mold. There's technical names for them all. I found in the past that people are highly bored by getting the technical. The little dots on the board, that's from cockroach poo. They'll stain the wood. So sometimes you can't see the mold on the wood, but you'll see the cockroach poo or so, and it stains the wood. You can take the poo off, except there's still a black dot. Then you have to sand it down or power blast it down with the soda blaster. So here, there's just, a big gaping hole from this unsealed crawl space, and then here into the sealed crawl space. So I was like, what is that about? So you just see all the critter activity. You see biomass growing on top of the unvented crawl space plastic, and then exposed ground. And exposed ground, it equals mold, as you can see here. If I can move this down, as I move, the plastic back, you see beautiful brown dirt. So again, 100% plastic down really helps out our crawl space. So as I go, and then some mold growing on the beams, as I go into the next crawl space, boom, boom, boom. They have a 2-ply poly down. There's no insulation above head, so they pulled it down and probably cleaned it off or so, and then they put some insulation on the wall, and it's a styrofoam. The styrofoam has an incredibly low R value. It's good for packing boxes so things don't break, but it's not good for slowing down heat transfer stuff. So as you can see here, that's styrofoam. So per North Carolina building code, it should be an R10.1 at least, and so that would have to be a PolyIso board, and that just means it has an R7 value per inch, so 1.5 inches, 1.55 inches per North Carolina building code would need to be on that wall. But this is a retrofit, so which I've seen you don't have to have insulation up and it'll still pass code. But if you're a contractor, pest control company, and you're going to put insulation back on the wall, why use a dollar piece of styrofoam board? And tell them they're getting insulated walls. They're really not. You could just almost have a sheet of plastic up there, and it'd be the same as a 2-inch piece of styrofoam board. So the biggest thing was that the connection, the common wall in between the two in between the unsealed crawl space and the crawl space, I could see in. So it's just all that now. It's cold. It's February. I inspected this in January. So now you got cold air leaking into this crawl space. And this guy says, my floors are cold, the house is cold, and everything. I'm like, well, you have a sealed crawl space. It should be gorgeous down there. So I went in there, and it is a bit cold just because it's not sealed off from the other crawl space. Easy to do with probably $4 of insulation board and foam, but the pest control company didn't even know their crew. They didn't even know that they needed to do it. Didn't even look for that. Their inspector, when stuff is done, if they had one, he missed it too. So I'm the owner of Sealed Solution. I inspect all crawl spaces for perfection. So they need to air seal off uh, above here the joist box, which lead into the other crawl spaces and our critter superhighway. Now inside of this crawl space, the gorgeous one, you see more here, snake poo and leaves. Leaves usually means that there's possum that's trying to nest in there. And then they have, a good but an old-fashioned way to bring dry air into the crawl space, um, and that works. And it has a screen on it to stop any critters from coming inside. That's good. White tape around that, not good. It should be silver foil because that stays up usually for a lifetime. The white tape, it does not. The white tape is um, designed to tape on plastic. So, yeah. So, so a lot of critters got in there. Um, and per code, it's supposed to be 3 inches away from all wood to have uh, North Carolina termite inspection gap, and a ton of the plastic is not. So that's 3 inch gap. That's good. Here, not a 3 inch gap. It's like a 1 centimeter gap. So you get a pest control company, and this is just 3 years ago. This is a major pest control company, a very large firm that does a lot of these. Maybe they didn't know 4 years or so ago, but I was just shocked at how jerry-rigged this was. Like if you watched 10 Google's reviews on how to do a sealed crawl space. Yeah, I'm gonna get styrofoam board. And yeah. So yeah. A big one was too that the AC unit inside there, once you seal off a crawl space and you have a gas furnace inside the house, inside the crawl space, it needs to breathe air. It needs to breathe fresh air. So there's usually a fresh air intake on a steel crawl space per North Carolina building code. And then there's the exhaust that goes out at a 3 or 5% grade, all depending on the year it was installed. Because there's no fresh air intake, the furnace in the winter sucks all the oxygen out of the air in the crawl space, keeping, the fire going. And now it has to pull from the home. So it has to deprive the crawl space with oxygen and suck air from the home, oxygen. So now it's struggling. Now it's, just eating up more energy trying to work. That's why North Carolina building code, the minimum and building code's minimum is for knucklehead contractors. So the minimum is, to put in the 2 inch pipe there going to an outside foundation vent that allows, the AC to the furnace to suck in air so it could breathe properly so it could stay highly energy efficient. So the customer went back to those guys. And I just did this as a customer service call saying, you need to go back to them. He's like, well, let's contract through you. No, it's a few $1,000s. They need to eat this thing, especially 4 years or so ago. They're not at the minimum of code. So it's not like they didn't do things sloppy. They didn't do the minimum, and code is designed for contractors like this. So he went back to them. They sent out a inspector from the company. The company found a handful of stuff like I did because we pointed stuff out to him, went back to the owner, and the owner said, I understand, I'm not paying for a thing. So if he wants to spend an extra blah, 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 they'll come out. I was like, holy Christmas, that is so, that's, yeah. Yeah. So as I'm speaking to this gentleman, he called me up and followed up with me. Because hopefully he'll just have the other company come out and have one guy spend 3 hours there and fix stuff. It'll cost them, I don't know, $200 in gas and labor or so. But no, that ain't gonna happen or so. And his wife today, he's putting her in hospice. So I was like, yeah. So he said, well, Matt, I just want you to come out, you to do it right or so. And then I'll fight that battle with him, later on or so. But these aren't small things. These are big, epic things in a crawl space. Not having an air supply line for the furnace, not sealing off partitions in between an unsealed crawl space that's full of, chemical crickets and cockroaches and mice and snakes, like all crawl spaces. And it's just allowing easy access in and out, not having the door air sealed and insulated, and using sub grade insulation board, hardboard insulation on the walls or so. But he got charged, a strong price. I was like, holy Christmas. So, yeah. So, guys, this is why you need a crawl space company who has experience a lot with crawl spaces, and to do a thorough inspection and take pictures and give you pictures of the before and after work or so. Matt Garrett, Sealed Solution. I look forward to scheduling your free crawl space inspection. I appreciate your time.